Today, I'm talking to Julia. Julia has been on the carnivore diet for just over a month now, and she is already experiencing some massive health benefits. Improvements with issues like depression and anxiety. In fact, she's even seen improvements with her emphysema. And we're going to meet Julia right now, but just before we do, I want to ask you a big favor. I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary on YouTube, and I'd love to hit 50k subscribers before that anniversary. And whether you're currently subscribed or not, you can help. And it only takes a split second. Please smash the like button on this video, which will help push the video out to more people. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much. It really helps the channel and helps me to be another voice out there talking about the carnivore diet. Let's meet Julia. How did you find the carnivore diet?
Hey, Dave. Actually, I heard about it through my son, Marty, who has struggled with some, just different issues like, stomach pain and weight and that kind of thing. And he was telling me, hey, have you ever heard of lion diet? It's like, no, I haven't. And he said, well, look up Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson. So I did. And at that time I was doing keto. And I think prior to carnivore, keto carnivore. For 13 years, I was doing keto and then keto carnivore probably for 2 to 3 months and experimenting with adding back starch and things like that. So I was like, wow, that sounds really interesting. And it kind of sat in the back of my mind. And then he tried it. And of course, I didn't know anything about, using keto chow or electrolytes or anything like that. And he said, oh, no. He said, I couldn't take it. I was so tired. I need the carbs. And I'm like, oh, that kind of stinks. Oh, well, try again another time. Well, sure enough, when I researched it, I realized that the poor guy was having carb withdrawals. But anyway, so he's not quite ready for that. But I'm hoping that with my example, eventually he'll kind of go, Ma's doing really good. And maybe it'll work for me. So to give you some background about myself and why I started keto. So all my life, I've been a complete sugar junkie. Sugar was like crack. And I was laughing with my brother about this. I'm the oldest of four. And I have one sister and two brothers, one sister that's special needs. And we used to both like literally take brown sugar, steal it out of the cavity, eat the chunks out of it, pour like white sugar down our throats, drink honey, and it was making me pain. Yeah, I remember that. He said, oh, what about Oreo cookies? I said, oh, I only like the middle part. He said, no, I like the chocolate part. Same addiction. Anyway, I didn't realize that it was responsible for a lifelong depression and anxiety. And I remember being age 6 years old and thinking I wanted to kill myself. Now, to give you a little bit of background, I did grow up in a very violent, dysfunctional family. So certainly that had a lot to play into that. And I was the black sheep, if you will, or I call myself the experimental model. Excuse me. So anyway, to fast forward a little bit, I was always the one picked on in school and that kind of stuff, never fit in. And food, sugar especially, was the comfort. Whenever I felt like I needed to check out or not feel, I stuffed the emotions down with food. And it exacerbated, of course, the depression, the anxiety. Even at a young age, I realized it was doing something to my weight because I always had this little roll in my stomach. I wasn't a fat kid, but I always had this little roll I could never get rid of. And it seemed to increase every time I ate pasta or sugary things, which I loved. Now, I did grow up eating an Italian diet. I am Italian by background. bilingual first generation. So I grew up eating really good, well prepared food. I mean, my parents did know how to cook and they made some wonderful things. But when I realized now, it was just all wrong for me as far as the quantity of starch and the vegetables, even I think caused some issues with me because I always had constant colds, coughing as a kid, even not like I have now, with which I have emphysema. I was always having respiratory stuff going on. Had a hard time running. I used to get really out of breath. I couldn't keep up with the other kids in the gym, that kind of stuff. So right away, all these foods that I didn't, of course, they don't teach you that, were causing issues for me. So as a teenager, the depression really got bad. I started to dabble in substance abuse. Thankfully not acid or anything like that, but lots and lots of weed, alcohol. Started smoking cigarettes to try to fit in, and then I realized I love I just love the tobacco. So went to college, got in, to a really good college, and then to fit in, right away, party, party, party. And I thought it was cool because, I could party my brains out like from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then no, excuse me, let me say on the weekend rather, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd catch up on my work, managed to keep a 3.0, a little higher, and got through. But then after 2 years of that, I really crashed. And that was my introduction into the 12-step programs. And then the sugar addiction took off again because at the meetings, they would always have donuts, sweets, candy. They'd say, oh, if you want to really get off the alcohol, drink a chocolate thick milkshake. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then the weight gain, for me, it was always a fight with weight. Even though I never got obese because I would starve myself first, I went through anorexia, I went through bulimia, I did got just anything to keep the weight off. I couldn't stand the idea of getting fat. And it was always a yo-yo of 20 to 30 pounds. So finally in, let's see, 2011 or 2010, I heard about keto and tried it. And at that time I was 162 pounds. Now to tell you, I'm 5'2". I was 5'3". I think I'm a little less now. 5'2". I weighed 162 pounds and felt awful. All my joints hurt. It was really tough going up and down the stairs. I would get even more winded than I did normally due to the respiratory issues. And once I started doing that, the weight came off. And I did maintain a weight loss of 50 pounds from 2010 until this year. But always yo-yoing and maybe about 8 pounds. It was always like that struggle, even with the keto, because it was the sweet addiction. I was always trying to make something sweet that was keto. So I was a master of making keto cheesecake, keto brownies, keto cookies, and I'd share them with my friends. And Christmas time, I'd go crazy and bake and all that stuff. And I thought I finally beat this thing, but no, because what I realized is when I even put sweet in this body, it goes nuts. It's like the cravings. You do the zombie walk to the refrigerator, you open the door and say, oh, what's in there? You're looking crazy for a fix, you know? So the carnivore kind of happened naturally because what I was doing was slowly cutting out the carbohydrates. Now in 2012, I had moved from New Hampshire to New Mexico. And because I was tired of the high cost of low living in New Hampshire. It was just crazy. Probably the highest property taxes in the country at the time. And New Mexico was affordable. And I think it was much more geared to me doing art for a living because at the time I was doing historical reproduction pottery and loved it, and New Mexico really lends itself to that, to art in general. So my husband and I moved there. We both had come from violent families, but we both we had a wonderful marriage, a lot of therapy together. he was an incredible cook. But at that time I had started keto, and he was so kind. He'd cook for himself, and then he'd cook like maybe the sauce or whatever went with it for me, and so I was able to stay pretty strict to it, and stayed around right around 114 pounds, maybe most of the time 112. And still though, just it was always those darn cravings, and that fighting with the food and experimenting. So anyway, he passed away from cancer. He died from lung cancer in 2017, and that was rough. He was my best friend, love of my life, and I'll always miss him. But I always kind of feel him with me in my heart. He'll always be there. And I always remember that wonderful cooking. And there's even a spot in the kitchen floor where he always loved to cook, and it's worn smooth from where he was all the time. So every time I see that, I'm thinking, hey, you know. So I have really warm memories of that. And we worked through so much with in our relation with food, with trauma, with all that, which I really think is very much connected. That it's made it so much easier now in my life to have friends and have relationships. And I do have I have a partner now. We're not married or live together, but really nice man. And it's just, oh my God, going through all that stuff, it's so much easier because of dealing with all those hurdles. The emphysema, like I said, I think it just naturally progressed. And I believe for me, it's from just having trauma, so much trauma in your life, and internalizing it. And they say a lot of people with COPD and emphysema come from a lot of violence and never feeling safe. So that's been my kind of lifelong struggle. And it all relates to the food. The food felt warm and safe, and the sweets felt kind of sweet in your life. And so, anyway, all this keto eventually led to the carnivore. I started to see more videos. I saw you. I especially love your lives. They're great. I saw Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Chafee, and Kelly Hogan. I love her stuff. She's so, vibrant. She's a crack sugar addict like I am. So I really identified with her a lot. I do identify with her a lot. So I had been going until my husband passed away to AA meetings, for the substance addiction, but I stopped going because I just finally got tired of seeing just the food triggers there, for one. I found that people weren't really taking care of their diet or their mental health. I chose to manage the emphysema with diet and with meditation and no medicine and just acupuncture every other week. And it's worked to manage it. Then what led me into carnivore is the coughing fits were starting to get really violent. I mean, to the point that I'd throw my back out. It was debilitating. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was when I no longer had the energy to even do a painting. And after my husband passed away, I switched from doing pottery to oil painting. I do photorealism, and I do that full time. And I sell my work, and I do commissions and that kind of thing. And it was just like picking up a paintbrush. Felt like I was lifting 1,000 pounds. I said, I've got to do something about this. And I prayed about it a lot. And it just popped into my head, try carnivore, just try it. And it just fell together. And like I said, I sort of phased myself off of the vegetables. And then finally, I think July 17th of this year was my first full total carnivore day. And then July 25th, I realized that I love coffee, but the way I drink it is I had to put tons of heavy cream in it and stevia. And those were causing issues with the coughing for me, as well as cheese. So on the 25th, I completely cut out the dairy and the coffee. And wow, just the difference in such a short time. Like the first thing I noticed was the violent coughing fit stopped, which was just blew me away. I'm like pinching myself saying, oh my God, I'm not having like these horrendous coughing fits first thing in the morning where I can barely breathe and I'm holding onto the counter just to try to catch my breath. And, it was like so freeing. And I made a list of like the different things that have happened just in the 33 days now that I've done carnivore. So the so basically the violent coughing, no backache from the coughing that causes the back spasms, no heavy phlegm. I used to get these little melia on my skin, these little hard things. Those are gone. I don't break out. I used to say I'll never pop my last zit because I always get them. I had acne really bad as a kid. Now I know it's from sugar. Athlete's foot. I used to get that. And I actually experimented. Now, this isn't true of everybody. It's like Dr. Barry says, there's a bell curve for sensitivity with food. So for me, stevia was causing the athlete's foot because I took it out, I added it back in, and the athlete's foot came back. So it's definitely that sweet thing that I just need to stay away from. The insomnia. Now I have what's called biphasic sleep, meaning that I go to bed at a decent time, have no trouble falling asleep. This is since carnivore. I wake up maybe 2 in the morning. I'm up for about an hour. And I might get up, I might not, and then I go back to sleep and I'm fine. And I feel rested. When I wasn't doing carnivore, I would wake up and then couldn't go back to sleep, or I couldn't fall asleep, or I just sit there and I'd be so tired and just stare at the wall. And I'd have to take like several naps during the day to kind of catch up on sleep, and then I felt okay. But it was really messing with my work schedule and stuff, trying to get things done. And the exhaustion's gone, which I can't believe. It's just like not just barely able to move. I was so tired from just the coughing and everything. And used to get a lot of vertigo and dizzy spells. Don't get that anymore. Um, I'm just trying. Oh, and then some of my hair, like which was, it was starting to really recede, is growing in. I get like all this little peach fuzz going on. Hormone wise, I am 63, so women tend to get a little bit more testosterone and less estrogen, so you get this little peach fuzz stuff. That's gone. So somehow this is evening out my hormones. I used to get split fingernails a lot, and that's gone. And I used to get cracked heels. So my skin, cracked heels, they were so deep, and I would take care of my feet. I mean, I moisturize and put socks on, and it was so painful to walk on them. And I'd be limping, and my partner would say, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I've got those cracked heels going on again. What to do about it?" And that's gone. That disappeared completely. I can't believe it. So all these benefits, and mood wise, that's another thing I noticed. Now, keto pretty much kept me from, feeling suicidal like I used to feel all the time prior to doing it. And I did attempt it twice in my teens. Very lucky to have lived through it. But after before doing keto, it was just a constant thinking about it. And I had gotten help, professional help, and talked about what happened to me as a kid and all that kind of stuff. And it did help a lot. Counseling really helped me a great deal in giving me some good tools and how to deal with the complex PTSD. But the depression was always kind of there. Well, once I did keto, it managed that. And then when I'm now doing carnivore, I've noticed that even like big triggers that used to really set me off, it's like I kind of look and go, oh, like that's really annoying, instead of, it's like the volume's been turned down. It's wonderful, and I've been very stressed actually lately because my little sister she had a stroke, but she had a horrible seizure, ended up in the hospital. She's still in rehab, and she lost use of her voice. And we used to talk every day. Thank God. I mean, we've all been praying for her, and she's starting to come around. That would have set me off so badly. I would have had anxiety, like feeling like my heart was coming into my chest and couldn't breathe. And that's not happened. I mean, I'm sad, and I feel scared for her, but like appropriately, and not like a total off the wall crazy emotion like I used to feel. The whole time I never took antidepressants, I never took inhalers, I never took medication for the emphysema or anything. I always tried to manage it the best I could on diet and with acupuncture, and it did work. But now it's really the next level. It's incredible. And it, you know, I always tell people, if I never feel better than this, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'd love for the emphysema to heal because I'm one of these people that believe anything can reverse. I really do. I mean, because I don't think I've done the damage to my body with meds and everything that a lot of people have. So maybe my body has a better chance. But if it does, it does. You know, I'd love to be able to feel strong enough to be able to haul a suitcase from the airport to the cab, you know, to go visit my kids and maybe visit my sister if I can, because she lives across the country. I'm in New Mexico and my kids are on the East Coast. You know, who knows? I mean, that's kind of an aspiration. And now it's like, hey, maybe that can really happen because I keep feeling better. So it's just been a wild ride, but God, you know, it's just listening to the people that I hear, like all the different testimonials, and Carrie's another one from Homestead How. It's so inspiring and uplifting. And I'm saying, you know, there really is a way out of this madness. And you know, I no longer feel like I'm just barely getting through life and like, you know, yeah, you know, even though I try to really put my best foot forward every day, uh, even before doing carnivore, I always fix my hair and put my makeup on and wear something nice. I'm trying to be the best version of myself that I can. You know, I really believe that's so important. But now, you know, I can even take that to the next level. So it's given me a lot of enthusiasm and hope. So that's kind of it. You know, I'm just
Nice.
continuing on.
So first, let me say I'm very sorry to hear about the situation with your sister, and I hope she makes a speedy recovery.
They do too.
Um,
Thank you.
One thing that just as you're talking that I'm struck by the whole time is when we first started talking, you coughed a little bit, but the whole time you've been talking, which has been like about 20 minutes now, you haven't had a coughing fit at all. This doesn't to me, this is not that's not my image of someone with emphysema. And so, and especially having done carnivore for just over a month now, I mean, can you paint the picture a little bit more about what this conversation would have been like a month and a half ago?
Well, I would have started talking and talking about some, you know, some emotional stuff. I probably would have had a horrible coughing fit. I would have had to stop, drink some water, catch my breath, talk a little more. Maybe I would have lasted 5 minutes, started coughing again. You know, like my whole throat would have constricted. Now, I mean, I still get the coughing. I mean, I realize, of course, there's a connection emotionally as well because nothing's separate, but it's night and day. It's night and day.
Remember speaking to you by email prior to the interview about how, and you did touch on it before, about how you couldn't complete any of your paintings because of the coughing fits. Is that correct?
Correct. I would sit in front of my work, and these are commissions, you know, and thankfully I'm doing one for a cousin who's been very kind and compassionate. Hi, Laura. You see this. And she knew, you know, she knew I was getting sicker. And I really had to push myself to try to sit in front of it. And then what would happen is one little fume from the terps, or even if I used the scentless stuff, um, excuse me, it would just set off a fit. I'd have to stop, have to rest, and then I'd try to go back to it again. So something that normally would take me maybe a few weeks to complete was taking months. But I made myself do it. And I thank my cousin Laura for that commission because it made me realize that I needed to do something to change, maybe work on my diet better. And that's when the whole carnivore thing started. So I have her to thank, you know, for that.
It's awesome that you've seen such an improvement in such a short time. Um, so what is your daily regime like? Like, how often are you eating, and what kind of foods are you eating?
Okay, so when I first started, I was eating, you say I weighed maybe 114 pounds then. I was eating 1 to 2 meals a day. You start with bacon and eggs. I love bacon and eggs. People say, well, you can eat when you're hungry. So when I was hungry, I'd eat. And for lunch, I'd have, some either like a beef burger or a steak, piece of fish. And I noticed the first 3 or 4 days, even doing it, I was waiting for my keto chow to come in. I guess I had what they called oxalic dumping. And actually, somebody on your live mentioned that. And I looked it up and I said, ooh, and it felt like sciatica in both legs and then the cramping. So I said, okay, this is part of it. The other thing it was, and the other thing, I had IBS for months and months prior. I no longer have that. But during the adjustment process, I still had that to deal with, the loose, stools and that kind of thing. But because of just listening to people, I said, okay, I'll just ride this out. My body's adjusting. And so I would eat, and then, I really wasn't hungry. That's the thing I noticed. Like, I'd eat, and it's like, wow, I'm not even hungry till the afternoon. Like, wow, this is like really incredible. Just not fighting food cravings, not fighting call it the food monster, my lifelong nemesis. So then once we hit about 106 pounds and I wasn't trying to lose weight, by the way. It was a nice benefit of it. Um, but I wasn't trying to lose the weight. And then once I hit about 106, I started getting really hungry. So I'm going, wow, what's going on? I said, maybe because my body's not feeding on the fat in my own body and I need more food. So I just ate more. Still losing the weight too. So now I eat like I said, the bacon and eggs in the morning, or sometimes just bacon, or sometimes I'll just eat a burger. If I don't feel like doing bacon and eggs, depending on whether I'm feeling I'm eating fat that day or not. I did the keto chow. I found it was too much, like for the whole portion. So I did like a half portion every other day. And I still do that now. That seems to really help with the cramps and stuff. And what I make is things like bone broth out of oxtail and Italian. We eat all parts of the cow. And I would do the collagen soup. It has a lot of collagen. And I'd do the soup and add the keto chow to that. And instead of having coffee, I'd have that in the morning sometimes. And then maybe for lunch, have the bacon and eggs. And then maybe, in the afternoon, do either, like I said, a burger or a steak. I don't eat steak that much. I love fish, though. So what I've done, I had to eliminate butter for me, the regular butter, because somehow the lactose solids would create phlegm. But then I discovered ghee. So it has that wonderful butter flavor without the lactose solids, and that seems to work. So I'll slather that on this, if I have a piece of salmon or meat, they call it like a maritime mix of oysters and mussels and calamari and all that stuff. Make a big old plate, a big bowl of that, and eat that. And then, what I've noticed is I just eat and love every bite. It's like my taste buds have gotten enhanced or something. I'm just like, this is just, and I can eat all I want, not think about that I'm going to have hunger pains later, or have to fight the carb monster, or fight those cravings. Now I do still get cravings every once in a while, so I find that to help that, I will have a little bit of maybe the heavy collagen soup with a little bit of fat added, or maybe I'll have an egg. Maybe I'll have a couple pieces of bacon. Kelly Hogan suggests do a couple pieces of bacon and put yourself to bed if that hits, and that does work for me. So that's pretty much my regimen. And I grill outside and I can use it all year long. And I just throw meat on that, or my salmon, I can wrap in foil and cook it that way. And I do use seasonings. I make sure, of course, they're sugar-free, but I use things like salt and pepper, dill, that doesn't seem to bother me, garlic powder and onion powder. And when I make my soup, like the soups I either make in a crock pot out of beef cheeks, which are just so good, they just fall apart. I use onion and garlic just to season this, and a little salt for seasoning, but I don't eat them. I do eat organ meats. I maybe once or every week or two. And I buy those from, I have a couple of friends that have farms. So I buy like pork heart, beef heart, calf liver, chicken liver. And so I have a whole freezer full of all these different things. And I have tons of variety, which seems to work for me. And it's very much actually the original Mediterranean diet, not what they call Mediterranean diet now, but the real thing. I think Dr. Berry had qualified that because he said he's traveled in several countries in Europe, and it's not the pasta and the bread and the garlic bread and all that. It's actually lots of meat, lots of fish and butter, and that's what I'm eating, and it seems to really be a fit. I mean, I loved the northern New Mexican diet, the original stuff with the. I had done away with like the flour tortillas, didn't touch them or any sugar, any sweets, but I was eating corn tortillas, beans, which I loved, and tacos and things like that. And here they don't load it with cheese and all that kind of stuff. It's very wholesome, whole fare. But I was just getting to the point that I had to make a change. I think that you can do keto on that actually. If you just really limit the corn tortillas and do more burger and that kind of thing. But
Stay away from the processed stuff, right?
yes, it was all whole food, so it was working exactly. And I'm very blessed. I didn't grow up with any processed food, so I got into very good eating habits that way. But when you've got sensitivities, it's not enough.
Mm.
Now I may, if I may even try lion diet eventually, depending on whether I feel that the emphysema is healing or not, and then go back to this style of carnivore. I'm open to doing that, just to really kind of boost my body into a healing cycle. Not quite ready or feeling I need that yet, but I'm totally open to it. Just doing beef, salt, and water. You know, we'll see. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a journey.
Yeah. So, um, you mentioned, did you say chicken hearts?
Yeah,
Chicken liver?
chicken heart, chicken liver, chicken
How do
gizzards.
you how do you cook those up?
Okay, so you take a little bit of fat. I have like I love duck, so I save all the fat from the duck and use that, or I save bacon fat and use that, and then melt it, and then put the gizzards. I chop them up real small, put them in a frying pan. The trick to getting that nasty taste out is I use a little bit of rice vinegar. It doesn't have any carbs in it or anything or sugar, and just a little bit, and then just cook it down, and then I cover it, and I do use salt, maybe one bay leaf, and some garlic, but I don't use. I just put pieces of garlic in there, and it flavors it. And it's really yummy. I mean, it has a nice flavor. I cook liver, whatever liver I'm cooking. The trick to doing that is doing it very slowly. So you actually start with a cold pan. You melt the oil, or not the whatever fat you're using. You put your raw liver in there and just very slowly cook it. Now I do put onions in it. That's the only thing I eat that's plant based that doesn't seem to bother me. But like I said, if I do blind diet, I'm totally okay with eliminating that too. Then just cook it real slowly. Now I don't like to cook it through because it tastes like your shoe, just like just. So I like it when it's a little bit pink inside, and I just cook it real slow and then turn it over, cook it real slow, and just kind of I can test with a fork to see if it's just right, and it just melts in your mouth. It's so good. So I kind of know when my body needs it. I kind of like I'm craving it, so then I eat it. And the funny thing is, as a kid, I hated meat until I learned I could eat it rare. And that was,
Really?
yeah, couldn't stand it. It's like I can't eat this stuff. It tastes like a cork, And I always cook everything to death. It's like who can even eat this? Now my partner loves well done, but I've learned to make it so that I can sear the outside and it's still juicy. He loves the way I cook meat. For me, just no, no. And
Yeah.
like sometimes if I get a little bit of a craving, that's the other thing I do. I always have like they call them hamburger cookies. I think Kelly calls them that. I always have one sitting in the fridge and I'll just eat a little piece of the raw meat. And
Wow.
it just stops the craving for me. And I have 3 cats, so the really nice thing is they're pure carnivores. I can share my food with them.
Oh
And
no.
it's wonderful. Even their health's improved. I put raw hamburger and mix it in with the cat food, or I chop up, like if I have meat left from the beef cheeks, I chop that up and put it in their food. And man, they look good. Yeah, I feed them totally wet food with carnivore pieces. You know, they call it carnivore, the nice raw hamburger or some little bit of raw chicken or whatever. And they're not overweight. They look healthy. Their teeth are good. And even my 15-year-old cat, that was just as an example of how good this diet is, she was losing all kinds of weight. I thought she was going to die. She was 13. And I started putting hamburger in her food, fatty hamburger, like 73%. She's put weight back on and she's active and she's outside. And she's like, wow, it's like a different cat, you know?
That's
So
awesome.
just to show you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just ourselves that we're poisoning, it's also our pets, right?
Take a look around and how many obese animals there are. It's like, really? And I do, I call myself the orphanage for unwanted kittens and puppies. I do rescue. Basically, what I do, the shelter here is so full that they don't have any room. They've got like, I don't even know how they do it. They've got like 62 dogs and 15 cats, and they just don't have the room. So what I do is I kind of take care of them until they're able to home, and I feed them really good food. And the lady that is the director of the shelter, wonderful girl. She's 26. She's really amazing. She's done rescues for hundreds of cats. And we talk about how important the carnivore diet is for a cat. And she said, your cats look so healthy. They look so good. And that's like such a compliment coming from her because she's done so many rescues. And she said, are you actually like brushing them and everything? And I said, no, I do sometimes because it makes them happy. But she was like blown away. So yeah, if you have,
Hmm.
you know,
It's interesting. There are no obese animals until we domesticate them, right? And we start giving them the same rubbish that we're eating, and then.
I laugh at Dr. Chafee's thing. Like, have you ever seen a big fat elk, you know, with boils on them and stuff? I mean, wouldn't you think they were sick? Yeah,
Yeah.
these poor dogs that they don't, you can't even see their legs. They're so obese. Their bellies are dragging on the ground. And the one thing I have to say that doing this diet and listening to testimonials has really done for me is giving me so much compassion because I never really judged heavy people before because I used to say, oh, they're just eating crap and they don't know any better. But now, when I see people like, I mean, let's face it, 85% of people in this country weight and obese. I mean, I'm definitely in the minority. And I just say, God, imagine how much they suffer every day. Because I've listened to people like how hard it is just to get up, how you're always having to go to the bathroom, the joint pain, the boils breaking out in your skin, not being able to breathe, or just physically not even be able to wipe your bum, because you're so big. And I'm like, I just my heart goes out to them. And I just say, God bless you. And when I see like a really big person that's like 300, 400 pounds, and they're actually able to walk, I'm saying, how powerful are you being able to carry that kind of weight every day? My God, you know? And imagine what you could become if you were able to get your health back. I mean, look at you
Yeah.
now, able to just lug all that weight. Like, wow, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just given me a much broader, I think, a kinder and more compassionate perspective.
Yeah. It's like I spoke. I've spoken to a couple of people about this. Always feels to me like, when we're not really thinking about the food that we're eating, and of course, before you've been carnivore or low carb or anything like that, um, you don't really have an appreciation for what's at play when it comes to nutrition and what nutrition really does. And um, you get into this habit of just saying, "Oh, that person just hasn't got self-control," or something like that. And it's not that at all. It's that that person thinks they're doing the right thing, because they're educated from when they're, you know, younger than able to go to school that, healthy food is what's in a cereal box and, what comes out of the bread bin and all this kind of thing. That's healthy food for them. Yeah. So, and then when, people like ourselves happen to, um, be advocating for a diet like this or talking about a diet like this, people in their situation are still going to look at us like we're crazy because they've had 30, 40, 50 years of literally indoctrination into this, this is what heart healthy means. And of course you're going to need drugs to manage all these things. You're just getting older.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
And
exactly. It's a brainwashing. And I mean, even my brother, I have a brother, my youngest brother's a medical doctor. He's a wonderful, kind, he's just great. He's had like a total spiritual awakening, I would say, the last 3 years. I mean, just incredible. And he sees what we're talking about. And he 100% backs me up doing this. It's just really awesome to have his support in this. And he asked me, like, he said, "Oh, what do you call that again? Ketovore? Can you tell me what videos to check out?" Because we always talk about it. He wants to live to be 120. And I said, "Well," I said, "you got to get your diet going there." But he told me literally that medical doctors, at least when he went to school, he's 55 now, they gave you maybe 2 weeks diet study. They literally have no clue. They go exactly by what the American Dietary Association tells them. So they honestly think they're doing the right thing. And then people think they're doing the right thing and they don't understand. Of course, they can't lose any weight. And of course, you don't have any control when you're putting, 18,000 portions of carbs in your body and your whole body's screaming for more and you're hungry all the time. Who has control? You can't fight hunger. It's just impossible. So you've got to help the body to reverse that. They need to tip that food pyramid scheme upside down, you know, I think.
yeah. Yeah, I think at the beginning of our discussion, you mentioned that sugar was like crack for you.
It
And I mean,
is.
that's literally, that's a good parallel to what we're talking about now, because it's like you don't say to a crack addict, just have some self-control, right? You understand that they can't control it. And so it's
Just
the same with sugar and stuff, right? We've got to accept that they can't control that.
they can't. There are some people that can, like my sister. She can have like a piece of, say, cheesecake or something sitting in the refrigerator and eat a little bit every day. How can you do it? Be gone in one bite. With me, it'd be like, whoop. You know the way dogs eat their food? That's how I eat it. Just
Yeah. I'm right
gone.
there with you. I'm right there with you.
But there are some people that can. That's why I'm saying you can't do a one size fits all.
Mm.
With this thing, you've got to. Yeah, I think the whole wonderful part about this journey is learning what are my body signals, what works for them, what are the cues, when am I really hungry, when am I satiated, and then tweak as you go. Like I noticed I had to change my keto diet as I aged because I let's see, so 13 years ago I was 50 when I started. So I found after menopause, my nutritional needs changed. I had to tweak again. I did find I was getting more and more and more sensitive to carbohydrates. So, the same thing with carnivore. I may have to switch to lion diet. Who knows? But you can't like be a Nazi about it and go, you can't have coffee and you have to do this. It's like,
Mhm.
stop that.
Yeah.
Let people have their process. I have my cousin, my wonderful cousin that commissioned my painting, is doing a mostly plant-based and some animal stuff in her diet. She's doing the ancient India Ayurveda. It's working wonders for her. She looks radiant. She feels good. She had gut issues her whole life, and they're gone. And she's been doing it for quite a while, and she's doing great. Now she's also open if she needs to tweak again, she will.
Mm.
But excuse me, she's doing what works.
Yeah.
Out of wine. You know, what works for me is not like, you like to drink coffee. I can't drink it only because it causes an extreme laxative effect in me. And also, I have to put tons and tons of cream in it to enjoy it. So that's out. But am I going to tell you, well, you need to quit? So,
Yeah.
great tea every now and then. It doesn't seem to bother me.
Oh,
So,
nice.
enjoy tea. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
but I'm not
So
addicted to it.
I'm really interested. You mentioned your partner.
Yes,
So you said like you're not living together at the moment. So I mean that makes cooking
we never did. It
right.
was like my husband passed away. They were actually friends. We kind of just got to know each other, and we're good friends.
Mhm.
He's always helped me out, like physically. I couldn't do like a lot of weed whacking in my garden and stuff like that. And incredible landscaper. Oh my God, so good.
Mm.
And it would help with paperwork because he really had a hard time just trying to process paperwork. So I'd help him with computer stuff, and he's very smart. He just never had a chance. I mean, he started working since he was 8 years old in the fields, and he's 60
Mm.
now. So I mean, he just
Yeah.
just really he's intelligent as far as like real, like he can listen to an engine and tell you exactly what's wrong with it and fix it, and
Mm.
stuff like that. He's amazing. But anyway, I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a
No,
tangent.
no problem. So I was just gonna ask, like, have you influenced him to go somewhat carnivore?
No, well, it's only been a short time. He was a little concerned because of the weight loss at first, and I said, no. I said, I feel really great. I said, don't worry about that. And I did warn him that this would happen. I think he's eaten junk food for so long, and he's starting to have issues with like hiatal hernia and stuff like that. And I said, you might want to think about your diet and what you're putting in your body. And I pray he'll find his way, but he's just not ready. He's not
Right.
ready to make the connection yet. So,
Mm.
it's hard for me to watch, to be honest with you, because I know, it's like once what has been seen cannot be unseen kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he has to have this process too, so that's why I don't push. I mean, who wants to
Yeah. Everyone's got to reach that. Yeah. Everyone's got to reach that kind of decision on their own.
exactly? I mean, it's like you have to have a why. I mean, for me, it was really an attempt to heal this emphysema and also mainly the mental health for me, not having the suicidal thinking anymore, not staying off of all meds. I want to continue to do that, be able to naturally manage my body as best I can. That's my why. But if you don't have that strong enough, you can't create it for somebody. You've got to want it.
So how do you ever go out for dinner together?
Yeah.
How do you manage that? How do you manage that?
So that's one of the fun things. So we regular restaurants, because almost all regular restaurants you get meat. He'll order his meal. Now I'll get a couple of hamburger patties on a plate. As I say, don't just hamburger patties. Of course, they always have to put with lettuce and tomato because I think they feel it looks kind of lonely like that. It looks pretty.
Mm.
But then, if there's any leftovers, I feed the critters outside. Nothing ever goes to waste out here because I live in the country. There's a wonderful restaurant called the Cowboy. Now, the Cowboy Cafe has nothing but smoked meat. And that's like my favorite place to go because you can just slap a steak on a plate and I'm good. And they'll do that. And he'll get maybe
No.
fish or something like that. And and so we do go out to eat a lot and enjoy it. We
Mm.
went to an Ecuadorian restaurant. And he ordered, I think, some enchiladas. And just a big old pile of the garlic shrimp. It was so good. And that's all I had. I said, don't bring any tortillas or anything like that. Just put the shrimp on a plate. And I'm good. And they did. So,
Oh, nice.
It's not been a problem for me. Chinese, if I do Chinese, I'll order duck because duck's a nice fatty meat,
Mm.
and I just don't use the dipping sauce. I just eat. It's got that nice crispy skin on it. Oh man, the way they
Yeah.
make it, you know. So there are things you can get. You can order things without the sauce if you want, you know, depending on the restaurant. Japanese, I get the sashimi, you know, just the plain fish. Um, you know, that can be a challenge because sometimes it doesn't really fill you up because you know you need to.
Yeah.
So I don't know for you because I know you live in Japan. You do that.
Yeah, the whole time I've been carnivore, I haven't had any fish.
Oh,
Um, but not because I don't like fish, but just because the opportunity hasn't really presented itself because of just time. But other than that, like going out to a restaurant, I'll just go to a barbecue restaurant and yeah, it's kind of normal in Japan to just eat steak or just eat beef, some description. So yeah, it's pretty easy.
too is I find that people ask, I'll just say, oh, I'm doing an elimination diet, but I'm trying to get better. Nobody questions that. You know,
Yeah.
I can't use the word carnivore necessarily unless someone asks further, and then I'll elaborate. But say, yeah, I'm just doing an elimination diet and see what happens. It's good,
Yeah.
you know, like, and people are really supportive that way. So it's
Yeah. I've found just say, oh, I've got heaps of allergies. So no sauces, no this, no that. I just got lots of allergies, and people just accept that.
that's a really good idea. I used to do that. You know, I haven't had alcohol or weed or anything in close to 30 years. But that's what I do. With people, oh, come on, you can have a drink. I said, no, man, I'm allergic to that stuff. Can't do it. But leave you alone, you know? So
It's really interesting, isn't it?
it is.
Because if you're saying I've got allergies, literally what you're saying is I'm doing this for my health, right? But if you were to just say, no, I'm not drinking because of my health, then people would be like, oh, come on, just one. Yeah.
Piece of cake.
Live a little.
Yeah, live a little and die a lot.
Yeah, right?
Sweet crosses my lips. I'm done. So done. Like, and there was one doctor that I think it was Dr. Kiltz was talking about every now and then, like, you know, women trying to get pregnant, they getting a little bit of ice cream. He said, are you out of your mind? He said, man, a little, there's no a little bit. I just have the whole bucket and then go out and buy more and have more.
Yeah.
It shuts off my leptins or whatever the heck it is. No, not
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. I think when those food scientists I think those food scientists when they were designing the most addictive foods they could, they had our bodies in mind, like 'cause I've got no off switch either.
They have neurology. It's so sad. It's really kind of dark, but they have just for the food companies that they employ to study what is the most addictive stuff that you can put to make these people eat it. Look
It's
around,
awful.
look around to get people to buy stuff, but it tastes good. Like, yeah, but and the sad part about that is it confuses your body, and that's what you're seeing a lot of people that are confused biologically, and their metabolism is all messed up because the body doesn't know any better. The brain doesn't know any different. It's like, well, it tastes all right, so it must be okay. And there's where you run into a lot of trouble with the toxins and everything because they're so good at masking them. I mean, that's just my own opinion. I'm no
Mm.
doctor or anything like that, but I will say my brother agrees with this completely. And
Yeah.
he's worked with people. He said, man, he said, it's so hard because they want the doctor to fix it, you know, and this is from his viewpoint. And he said, dude, I can't give you a pill to fix it. You have to work with me. We work as a team, you know, and that's been the hard thing about his whole awakening process is just realizing that the system wants you to just throw pills at people.
Mm.
He wants to work together with the patient to heal, you know,
Yeah.
and it's almost contradictory. It doesn't want to allow you to do that, you know, and I'm like, wow, but he'll find it. I
Yeah.
know he'll find the right niche. I know my brother's he's going to be awesome. We need
Mm.
people like more and more, and there
Yeah.
are, you know, there are people that are already doing that.
Yeah, a slow burn, you know. It'll take a long time, but eventually, it's just gonna catch on.
It has to, and then the more people that are carnivore, or that at least are conscious, ketovore, whatever it is, they're not going to buy that garbage. They're going to have to change, and that's why they try to sneak in those keto bars and stuff.
Mm.
This is safe. But if you're smart, which usually if you do this type of eating, your brain fog clears, you're going to see through that junk. You're not going to buy into it anymore. So, law of numbers.
Yeah,
There's more and more of us all the time. I mean, this is like, it's almost like a ripple effect. You throw a rock in the water and makes all these waves, you know, and everybody around you starts to get affected in a positive way, and it starts to create all this healing energy, I think. And that's what I really think's going on. You do hope to see in my lifetime, see it turn around. I may not, but I'm sure I'm going to do my part. And I
yeah,
hope, doing this interview with you will inspire others.
yeah.
It's never too late. Where there's life, there's hope.
Very well said. So, Julia, do you want to talk a little bit about your art? Maybe what are you working on just now?
Yes. Okay. So my art, what I've always loved to do, and probably I've been drawing since ever I could hold a pencil in my hand, is realism. The challenge was in school that it was this abstract stuff. And then when I do realism, like especially in college, I used to get like shot down by the teachers. It's just too literal. You have to do more. That's just not okay. And I was to the point where I was so disgusted because I couldn't. I at the time we didn't have YouTube like we do now. I couldn't find the technique to be able to execute what was in my mind and heart on the canvas. So I switched to pottery. I love doing historical reproduction pieces, and I did it for like different live action role play groups. I would do like dinner sets and vases and museum replicas for different museums and stuff like that. I loved it. And so that became my art for about 15 years, from about 2003 till my husband passed. With the grieving, the emphysema really took off. So I could barely lift anything anymore. It just got physically too heavy to do. And I just didn't have it in me anymore. I mean, just going through the grief with that was so intense. I did go to grief counseling, which helped a lot. And I highly encourage anybody going through that, please seek help because it really makes a difference. Anyway, so then I got on YouTube, and I found this guy called Mark Carter, who's an artist. He was self-taught, and he started teaching how to do realism. And then Jason Wolcott, who started to teach like color theory and different oil paints and what they do. And man, I must have binge watched for 3 months straight. And this actually helped me cope with the grief. I took copious notes. I bought different kinds of paint. I was experimenting, and then I realized, wow, I can actually execute paintings the way I want to, which is the first love I ever had. So I've been doing it ever since. And I have a website. I'll announce it when you ask me later. Um, and I sell my work on it, and then mostly through word of mouth, though, because people know my work, and I had a lot of family members commission stuff from me. And I don't do large volume. My pieces may take. I mean, some do. Like if it's a large piece, it could take months to do, even feeling good. Because what I do is I do like a black and white first. It's like the old way they used to paint in the 1800s or earlier, actually even 1600s. It's called a grisaille or graze. And then I slowly start to build the layers up. So you have to wait for each layer to dry. I work in oil, so it takes some time. And one painting might have 20 layers of different additions to it, until I feel like it's finished. And I've entered some shows online and stuff. I was really excited because was it 2 years ago? I think, yeah, 2 years ago in Texas, I had entered my work in a show. It got chosen. I mailed it there, and I ended up tying for first place. And my brother and my son happened to be in Texas. My brother was in Texas at the time. My son lived right near where the gallery was. So they got to see me get first prize, split with another gentleman. And I was really excited. It was like, wow. So it's never too late
Nice.
for career either. There I was, 60, 61. So,
Nice.
yeah. So I,
So,
just put my stuff in different shows online and just keep painting what thrills me. And New Mexico is so beautiful. I mean, the skyscapes, the desert, it just, man. And then I'm also a portrait painter. That's what I started doing mostly. I found that landscapes were more difficult, interestingly. But now I can pretty much do anything I want with these techniques that I learned. And I continue to learn. I'm always watching YouTube videos, and I love YouTube. YouTube's awesome. I mean, they
yeah.
have the little things with strikes and things like that, but overall, I think the way that you can get information out and learn, it's wonderful.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially listening to you, I've learned so much from your channel, just listening to different people you've interviewed. And I love how you interview and the questions you ask. And I'm just like glued and like, wow, this guy's really interesting. You know,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So, if people want to get in contact with you, check out your art, where should they go?
Okay, that would be VenetianCat.com. And that website will link to a email address. And I have all my information on there, and you can get a hold of me that way.
Julia, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I appreciate you for asking me. Thank you.
Guys, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.